For centuries, the moss-clad monolith lying supine at the center of Stonehenge has been a silent riddle. Visitors and archaeologists alike gaze up at the towering sarsens, those massive upright stones that define the silhouette of the monument, or they peer at the smaller blue stones that form the inner horseshoe. But lying there, half buried beneath the fallen wreckage of the tallest sarsen trilithon, is a slab that never quite fit in. It is known as the altar stone, or technically Stone 80. For the last 100 years, the history books were closed on this stone. We thought we knew exactly where it came from and what it meant. But in August 2024, a groundbreaking study published in the journal Nature shattered that comfortable narrative, forcing archaeologists to rewrite the history of Stone Age Britain entirely. Today, we are going deep into the story of that discovery, a story about a 6-ton slab of gray-green sandstone that traveled the length of a kingdom, revealing a forgotten connection between the rolling plains of Wiltshire and the storm-lashed cliffs of the Scottish north. To understand why this discovery is so shocking, we first have to look at the architecture of Stonehenge itself. It is a masterpiece of prehistoric engineering, built in several phases between 3000 BC and 1500 BC. Most people know the sarsens, the giants weighing up to 30 tons. We know they were sourced from the Marlborough Downs, a mere 15 miles to the north. Their transport was a Herculean task, certainly, but it was a local one. Then we have the blue stones, the smaller, darker stones. In 1923, the geologist H. Thomas famously traced their origin to the Preseli Hills in West Wales. That connection cemented the idea that Stonehenge was a monument of unification, binding the west of Britain to the south. And for decades, the altar stone was simply lumped in with them. It was the outlier, sure. It is a flat, dressed slab, about 5 meters long, unlike the pillar-like blue stones. It sparkles with tiny flakes of mica, which is distinct from the dolerite and rhyolite of the Welsh stones. But geologists assumed it came from the sennit beds of the Old Red Sandstone Formation in Wales, near the source of the other stones. It was a convenient assumption. It fit the map, but as technology improved, that map began to fray. Over the last decade, a team of researchers led by Richard Bevans of Aberystwyth University and Rob Ixer of UCL began re-examining the Welsh theory. They blasted samples with X-rays and analyzed the mineral content. One by one, the Welsh outcrops were ruled out. The barium content was wrong. The zircon ages didn't match. By 2023, the team had reached a frustrating but exciting conclusion. The altar stone was an orphan. It did not belong to Wales. The search radius had to be widened, and so they turned their gaze north. The breakthrough came via a technique that looks less like archaeology and more like planetary science. The team, now including Anthony Clark from Curtin University in Australia, used uranium-lead dating on mineral grains extracted from the stone. You see, sandstone is essentially a compressed archive of ancient sands. These sands are made of eroded crystals from even older mountain ranges. By dating these individual crystals, specifically zircon, apatite, and rutile, geologists can build a distinctive age profile, a fingerprint. It is like checking the birth dates of every person in a crowd to figure out which city they came from. When they analyzed the altar stone, they found a specific mix of crystals. Some were derived from 1 billion-year-old granite. Others were from geological events that happened 450 million years ago. This specific cocktail of ages does not exist in Wales. It does not exist in England. In the entire geological map of Great Britain, there is only one place where the rocks sing this specific song: the Orcadian Basin. This geological basin encompasses parts of northeast mainland Scotland, including Caithness, Sutherland, Inverness, and extends out to the Orkney Islands and Shetland. The data was irrefutable. The heart of Stonehenge was Scottish. This revelation brings us to the logistics of the discovery, which are nothing short of mind-boggling. The distance from the Orcadian Basin to Stonehenge is roughly 750 kilometers, or 466 miles, as the crow flies. But we have to remember, in the Neolithic era there were no crows flying straight lines for logistics managers. There were dense, wolf-haunted forests, treacherous bogs, and no roads. The wheel had not yet arrived in Britain. This raises the central, jaw-dropping question: how? How do you move a 6-ton slab across the length of Britain? The idea of moving it overland is almost certainly a myth. To drag a stone that heavy from Scotland to Wiltshire would have been a nightmare of epic proportions. The route would require crossing the Grampian Mountains, the Pennines, and countless unbridged rivers like the Forth, the Tyne, and the Trent. The friction, the terrain, and the sheer caloric requirement for the hundreds of people needed to drag the stone on rollers make this hypothesis highly unlikely. The only plausible answer is the sea. The discovery of the altar stone's origin forces us to reimagine Neolithic Britain not as a collection of isolated tribes huddled in clearings, but as a sophisticated maritime society. To transport the stone, the builders would have needed a vessel capable of carrying a 6-ton deadweight. This wasn't a job for a simple dugout canoe. They likely used massive log rafts, platforms of lashed timber that were stable but slow, or perhaps large skin boats. These Karach-style vessels made of animal hides stretched over wooden frames, are surprisingly buoyant and tough, capable of navigating the rough waters of the North Sea. The route would have been perilous. Leaving the coast of northeast Scotland, they would have hugged the eastern coastline of Britain, paddling past what is now Aberdeen, down the coast of Yorkshire, past the Humber estuary, and around the bulbous coast of East Anglia. Finally, they would have navigated up the Thames or the Hampshire Avon to reach the Salisbury Plain. This was not a casual trip, it was an odyssey. It would have required intimate knowledge of tides, currents, and landmarks. It implies a marine highway connecting the north and south, a trade route where ideas, cattle, pottery, and eventually giant stones flowed freely. But why go to such trouble? Why travel 500 miles for a slab of sandstone when the Marlborough Downs, just down the road, were full of perfectly good rocks? The answer likely lies in the spiritual geography of the time. In 2600 BC, the Orkney Islands were not a remote periphery, they were the center of the world. Neolithic Orkney was a bustling hub of innovation and culture that outshone the south. It was home to the Ness of Brodgar, a massive temple complex guarded by stone walls and filled with decorated pottery and art. It was home to Scotta Brae, the best-preserved Neolithic village in Europe, boasting stone furniture and drains. It was home to the Ring of Brodgar and the Stones of Stennis, giant stone circles that predate the major stone phases of Stonehenge. Archaeologists have long known that ideas flowed from Orkney to the south. Grooved ware pottery, a distinct style of decorated ceramics, was invented in Orkney and spread across Britain, reaching Stonehenge at the exact time the monument was being expanded. The design of Neolithic houses at Durrington Walls, the builders' camp near Stonehenge, mimics the stone houses of Orkney, right down to the central hearths and stone dressers. The altar stone was likely a gift, a tribute, or a relic brought to solidify an alliance. It physically cemented the bond between the two great power centers of Neolithic Britain, the ancestral hub of the north and the rising power of the south. Imagine the arrival. The stone, perhaps already ancient and revered in Scotland, is loaded onto a boat. The journey takes weeks, maybe months. When it finally arrives at the riverbank in Wiltshire, it is greeted not just as building material, but as a visiting dignitary. Placing it at the very center of the Stonehenge horseshoe wasn't just an architectural choice, it was a political and religious statement. It said, "We are one." We call it the altar stone because Inigo Jones, the 17th century architect, thought it looked like a place for sacrifice. In reality, its purpose was likely celestial. The stone lies perpendicular to the sun's path. During the summer solstice, the sun rises over the heel stone and casts its first rays directly into the heart of the circle, striking the altar stone. Conversely, during the winter solstice, which was the most important event for the Stonehenge builders, the sun sets between the uprights of the Great Trilithon, plunging the altar stone into the longest night of the year. With new Scottish connection, this alignment takes on a new poetry. The stone comes from the land of the midnight sun, where the summer days are extremely long and the winter nights are profound. Bringing a stone from the extreme north to the south may have been an attempt to capture or merge the solar cycles of different latitudes. While the Orcadian Basin is the confirmed geological source, a follow-up study has added a delicious twist to the mystery. Researchers compared the altar stone to the specific stones used in the famous Orkney monuments, the Stones of Stennis and Ring of Brodgar. The result was no match. The altar stone did not come from the exact same quarries as the Orkney circles. It came from the broader region, perhaps Caithness, or a different island in the archipelago. This suggests that the stone might not have been stolen from an existing monument, but quarried specifically for the journey, or taken from a site we have not yet discovered. The hunt is now on to find the specific outcrop in Scotland. Somewhere on a wind-swept cliff, or a quiet glen in the north, there is a hole in the ground shaped exactly like the heart of Stonehenge. The altar stone has transformed from a static slab of rock into a dynamic testament to human endeavor. It proves that Neolithic Britain was a unified, interconnected world, capable of feats of logistics that rival the construction of the pyramids. It tells us that 5,000 years ago, people looked across the dark waters of the North Sea not with fear, but with ambition. They bound their island together not with laws or roads, but with stone. The gray slab at the center of Stonehenge is no longer just an altar, it is a bridge. A bridge that spans 500 miles and 5,000 years, tracing the heartbeat of a lost civilization from the white chalk of Wiltshire to the red sandstone of the Scottish north.